Good evening, guys, and welcome to another Robbie K movie review. Tonight we got a double coming at you. We'll start with one, and of course, try to get the other one uploaded just as soon as possible. Anyway, welcome. If this is your first time to the channel, thank you very much for giving me a shot. Let's break it down. We start with what the trailer essentially lays out for you. No spoilers, of course. Throw into then a quick review of the trailer, and then we go into a few more details. So stick around for as long as you wish. Let's get started. Tonight, we talk about A Dog's Way Home, the supposedly feel-good movie of the year about a little dog named Bella. As she goes about her day-to-day activities as a dog, learning to enjoy her life, only to then suddenly, after a rogue squirrel chasing incident, according to the trailer, was set apart from her owner and is working her best, to return to her home and all the frontier that she has to cross. Will she make it? I can't tell you that. But let's go ahead and get into kind of the adventure as we review again A Dog's Way Home. Now, the quick and dirty review is simple. It really is a feel-good movie of the year, loaded with tons of that emotional energy that you haven't seen since probably the days of Homeward Bound. Feeling very much like a mixture of that and A Dog's Purpose. This movie definitely has the feel of adventure, while also the cute little package that comes with a great narration and just a great portrayal itself. Amidst the countryside, you'll be submitted to probably a rip-roaring adventure that will definitely get little ones' hearts racing. While being, pretty sentimental to the adults. And of course, throwing into it, it's just very much a simple, basic movie that follows a formula that we've become accustomed to for many, many runs. Now, nevertheless, the problem is that this movie is very predictable. And because of the trailer, you've probably already seen most of the movie, but more on that in the detailed review. Nevertheless, you can definitely know what's coming if you pay attention to the trailers. So don't expect too many surprises, and again, don't expect much unpredictability outside of a couple of scenes that you didn't see. Outside of that, though, it does its job, its purpose, and it's a fun family adventure movie that I think will take you back to the 90s and get you into that feel of youthful energy that you might have had if you enjoyed that Homeward Bound movies like I did. Nevertheless, what's the ratings? Family adventure, probably about a 7. Movie overall, definitely around a 6. Again, a nice, cute, cuddly adventure, but maybe not one for the theater. If this is where I leave you guys, thank you again. Please like, subscribe, and share. But otherwise, if you're interested in a few more details, stick around because here they come. As always, I like to start with the likes on this channel, and it really comes down to the energy of just the movie. Again, being a family feel-good movie means there's a lot of emotion, and I will admit that this is probably one of the few movies that's been able to nearly break open the tears at times. Not so much for the sadness, but just because of, again, the emotional roller coaster. If you've got a relevant story or a pet that's very close to your heart, this one's definitely going to touch some buttons. And that kind of brings me to the next point. The puppy is adorable. And as she grows up into the lovely pit bull that you get to see for most of the adventure, that same youthful energy and training just comes out. And you can admire it and enjoy how well coached the animal is, as well as just enjoy kind of the character that it brings along. And most of this comes from the fact that the narration adds that element that you don't expect. If you remember, again, back to the Homeward Bound references, while when those dogs and cats kind of acted out their purposes, you kind of felt like they were furry actors that really brought the story to life. And even though their movements and training are impressive, it's really the voices in time with that add that extra character and oomph. And the same thing here. I felt that Bella's voice was cast perfectly, and I felt that the youthful energy of it fit with the theme of the movie. As you continue along, the CGI for some of the more intense parts is actually decently done. Not the most realistic, but also pretty fluid and some good attention to details that you weren't expecting. And I would definitely say that when you throw in some of the custom soundtrack that is covers of some of the famous songs, you definitely get another added flavor to the bonus of an added bonus to the theme of the movie. Sometimes fitting very well in tandem with the scene, other times a nice break from the otherwise relatively silent film. It works on many, many levels, and again, I have to admit that for a movie that has this much emotion, it's actually pretty kid friendly. So bravo to them for making a movie that's not going to leave little ones, scarred for life. So kudos to them on that. In regards to the story, I guess I'm going to have to say that it works and it fits, and again feels like that nostalgic 90s adventure plot that at least I grew up in. So if you like that component, feel free to dive back into it and kind of relive your childhood days. But if that's not up your alley, well, you're going to be disappointed with this movie. And that kind of brings me to the dislikes. In truth, A Dog's Way Home has some minor dislikes, with the exception of one that I think I've already hinted at if you've been watching. We start with essentially that, for one thing, the movie's predictability, and that comes from two parts. One is that because it's this linear journey, you have an idea of what the components are going to happen, with obvious foreshadowing probably in the first 20 to 25 minutes of the film. It's a nice, I guess, introduction to it, and I give them kudos, but the formulaic approach made it one part that was okay for me. When it comes down to probably the next thing, though, if you remember in Homeward Bound, you got to see the family doing their best to find their animals. And while this movie managed to show one component of it, I didn't quite get the same adventure of the people who were so close to Bella. As such, that missing component, while not probably the most character-centric since this was about the dog, probably could have helped relieve some of the monotonous walking through the country moments that sometimes happen. And while I do appreciate the beautiful cinematography in terms of capturing the setting and the theme and the wilderness aspect of it, A Dog's Way Home still kind of struggles for me in that it didn't utilize its other actors very well. Especially, again, given the family that Bella builds at the beginning of the movie. And I guess because of that, my next dislike comes about is that the movie's actually a little longer than I anticipated. Without that kind of closeness to all the pets and character integration and the story that Homeward Bound had, A Dog's Way Home, again, has that kind of nostalgic feel, but there's a lot of dead space that probably didn't need to exist. Now, whether it comes from the book, whether it comes from personal experience, or whether it just comes from trying to find ways to bring out more of the dog, there are a couple of components that could have been left out and substituted for the other characters that I wanted to see, as mentioned earlier. And again, some parts I totally get, and the fast-forward motion helped with some of the monotony, but there were still some editing tips that could have brought it down. And I guess this next dislike comes from, if you want a movie that's close to 2 hours, then definitely don't kind of do the fast-forward motion that they did sometimes. Again, you've committed this far to it, go with it all the way and try to forego as much of the fast-forwarding as you can. Because otherwise you may not realize how much of the timeline has passed without the narration. My biggest complaint with this movie is I have to agree with my friend Dr. Hollis on this one. The trailer gives away everything, almost everything to the movie. In the title itself, you can understand what the end goal is. And with it, you've just honestly got almost every aspect of the movie in there. Some of the sadder moments that you haven't quite seen are a little tapered in the trailer, but you still get the same genuine feel of it. So, when you see all that and kind of get point A to point D and don't have a little surprise in between, it almost really takes away from the theater component of it. Which again brings me to the fact of this movie, as much fun as I had, is definitely a family film. And if you're looking to start the new year and not waiting on the next Disney animated feature to come out or can't wait, this is the film that's going to be for you, probably for the next couple of months until How to Train Your Dragon 3 comes out. But otherwise, this movie was probably best left as a Netflix original or perhaps a direct-to-video release. Not awful, very cute and adorable, but certainly lacking some of the other components and finesse needed. And with 3 other films that have come out this weekend, it's probably one of the ones that didn't need to be in the theater the most. Still, cute, adorable, fun adventure with plenty of nostalgia. If that sounds up your alley, hit it. But try to avoid watching the trailers then, because otherwise you're going to know just about everything. Anyways, guys, thank you again. You've heard my scores. Adventure Family is probably in the 7 range. Movie overall is about a 6. As such, we will leave this review at that. Likes, comments, subscribing, all of that is very much welcome. And until then, we will talk to you later. Bye.